All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner today, and it is finally game week. We've waited all year long to be back here in Ann Arbor, heading to the big house, and we're just a couple days away here. Also, Tanner, I feel like we talk about this is us just being kind of old men now, but we talk about the weather a lot on this podcast. But it dropped down to football weather so fast from the summer, and it's going to be it couldn't be more perfect for Saturday.
No, it did. I was just looking at this actually because it said on my Apple weather app on my iPhone, it says 72 is the high on Saturday, sunny. There's no little clouds on the app. But then if I go to Google and I put in Ann Arbor weather, it says 68 is the high on Saturday. But then if I go to the Weather Channel, it says 72 is the high. I don't know what to believe. I do know that it's 62 degrees in Ann Arbor right now. It feels amazing. Yeah. The entire Midwest has just been blessed. I got to bring a jacket Saturday night. I mean, it's going to be a little cooler. It's going to get into this, definitely dip it into the 60s at some point during the game with it being a night kickoff. It's going to be amazing. I might need to warm myself up with a little Fireball, a little cinnamon whiskey, quote unquote whiskey, to get me going.
Yeah, well, I mean, it won't be Fireball. It will actually be Woodson whiskey, the Cinnamon Blitz, the amazing Blitz that we're going to have at the tailgate this year. So we will have that. We'll have plenty of opportunities to warm up with
I just need some cinnamon, some warmth.
The fact that we're saying this and it's still August is wild. But
honestly, I took the dog out yesterday, and one of my best friends, I should say, he was the best man at my wedding. He's a high school football coach. And so we always talk about, these kids got it so easy. He's like, when we were in high school, we didn't always get water breaks, which is crazy to think about. Like, you can't just get hydrated. Because they got water bottles coming to them all the time. I'm only joking about that. But I just was outside and I'm like, man, I remember it being 90 degrees in mid-August and late August, and we're going through 2-a-days, or we're into game week and dropping 10 pounds of sweat every practice. And I'm like, man, I could have used this. I was an offensive lineman. I could have certainly used this.
It is nice. And I would say too, though, honestly, usually that first game, this is where I haven't really seen the sun in a while, not like I, do in July. And so that we all just get scorched during the game. So
last year was hot.
Last year was very hot.
Like 88, and it was an all-day thing, and I was very red the next day.
So I'm pretty pumped about that. Obviously, it's a night game, but we will be out tailgating all day. Let's talk a little bit about the tailgate before we get in the game. So I am I'm so pumped for this, dude. So we've got a new spot this year. It's at 1006 South Main. We've got an entire lot literally right across from the stadium. You're going to be able to see the stadium in the background of our tailgate, and we've got a whole day ahead of us. So Feldman Chevrolet will be out there. They're our presenting sponsor, so they'll have a whole setup. They'll bring in the Silverado out. So you
a couple Woodson whiskey shots in me. I might buy one. I might sign on the dotted line.
If they have a salesperson out there, they're going to be making some sales just to us, honestly. And then we'll have Woodson whiskey out there as well. North Peak Brewing, they'll have a special new vodka water brand called Camp out there, along with the Hail IPA in our Blue by 90 beer. And so very, very excited about that. And then we've got, entertainment up the wazoo. DJ Array, the GOAT. We've got DJ Array, the Michigan Stadium DJ. He'll be there getting things ready for us. And then our guy, Clayton Anderson, from 5 to 7 is coming on stage. Live band, all of it. I'm so freaking pumped. It's going to be a hell of a day.
Yeah, I just remember the last time Clayton Anderson did a tailgate, Michigan State 2022 night game. I think I shouted, Clayton, can you take me higher, maybe a dozen times. And I think he did play it, if I remember right. A little foggy on that.
You kind of become a little bit of like the most annoying drunk girl, like college girl ever. Like,
yeah.
Play my song.
Yeah, I think
you.
everyone experiences that. Like, Ryan, DJ Ray, like it gets a little loud. So what I'll do, and I've been doing this since I was probably in my early 20s, is I'll pull it up on Spotify what I want to listen to, and then I'll just like be like, yo, because we can't communicate really because the music's loud and it's hard to hear and we're shouting. I don't want to lose my voice any more than I have. So sometimes you got to go with the Spotify, show him the song you want. So with Clayton, yeah, I think we yelled Freebird a bunch too. I don't know if that ever got played. That's a tough one.
I mean, that's a tough one. Also, that's like the most overplayed shouting at a band thing.
Yeah, but right? it's so overplayed now that it's kind of funny at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully, I don't know what all the band that Clayton brings has in their bag. But I'm gonna be yelling for a lot of Creed. He did do "Lose Yourself" by Eminem, which was like a rock version. That was
electric.
I mean, we're old now at this point because I think if you had like the Gen Z, they're like, "Oh, Eminem, Lose Yourself, really?" But it was electric, man. And so we had a great time when Clayton was here 3 years ago. Looking forward to getting after it, and he puts on a good show, man.
He does. It's gonna be a great day. There's like. I think we talked about this on the last pod too, just like the excitement of game one, right? And the possibility, that's the best part of where we're at right now is like right now, Bryce Underwood is still in my mind the Heisman contender, right? Like he could be, right? Until he throws interceptions and does poorly, he's a Heisman contender. Right
Joe
now,
Milton, same thing 5 years ago.
Exactly.
I don't want to bring the negative energy in the air, but I thought he was Cam Newton.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Bryce is Cam Newton, but maybe we're a year away. But we've seen freshmen like Trevor Lawrence come in and play well, so we'll see how he does.
So, So, I mean, I think there's just like the possibility of everything. Like we could be unbelievable, right? And let me actually ask you, what do you take from? It seemed like every single player that went to the podium and talked to the media this week just talked about how excited they were to show off what they've been working on in the summer and fall camp and all that. Is that like arrogance? Is that like just what do you take from that?
No, I don't think it's arrogance. I think you work, 9 months leading up to this from the moment that bowl game ends. And even before that, through those 15 practices for the bowl prep, like you want to win the bowl game, but you are looking towards 2025 when you have a fresh slate and you don't have any losses, right? You don't have 5 losses on the record. So I don't think it's arrogant. I think it's, I think everybody does that, whether it's football players or anybody else that's, maybe working out in the gym or, that's studied for a test or whatever. Like you put in that work, you want to go perform, you want to go show off and show what you've been working towards. So I love it. Brandon Hillman, by the way, I'm sure we'll get to this, but it's just an absolute lunatic and I love it. He's just, I don't know do you have the quote pulled up about the colors for New Mexico? Because it was electric and I don't want to misrepresent it.
It was essentially, I don't have it. I can pull it up, but it was essentially like, at this point, they have the same colors as fucking Ohio State, so that's just how I'm going to play against them.
Yeah. Like the F-bomb was in there. Like every beat reporter had to throw it in there.
Perfect use of an F-bomb. Like I'm sure he got yelled at by the coaches, but like, that's just if you're ever going to use an F-bomb in the media, it's before saying Ohio State. Like I love that.
Yeah, I think everyone should be obligated to say fucking Ohio State.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. But yeah, I mean, I think it just feels like these guys are ready to unleash everything. And so I think that they're kind of in the same spot that we are, where we're just ready, right? Like we've been waiting, ready to get to game week. And I think for them too, like there are a lot of critics and questions and doubters and all that, I think that people are excited about Bryce, but obviously and excited about our offense and about the defense coming back. But there are a lot of people outside of Ann Arbor and even in Ann Arbor, even inside the Michigan fan base that are like, yeah, like, I don't think this is going to work out. Like, I'm not expecting anything, like all that. So I think they're just pumped to show everybody. I think that also, like, let's kind of remind ourselves it's game one with a freshman quarterback that turned 18 last year and a ton of new faces.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm super excited for the next few years of Michigan football. I think it's kind of a new chapter at this point after winning the national championship last year's, essentially a year zero, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of coaches that get that leeway, and I think Sharon should be given that as well, considering when everything happened, when Jim left, when those assistant coaches followed him or went to the NFL. It was like February, mid-February, late February. Like you're getting ready for spring ball, so I'm excited to see what Sharon is able to do with a full year of coaching under his belt. I thought he got a lot more comfortable at points later in the season last year. I mean, they finished on a 3-game win streak. We certainly had some criticisms, but I thought those things got cleaned up. I thought he managed the game as a head coach a lot better in terms of clock management, situational awareness, a lot of things. So
Yep.
Excited to see what that looks like in year two. And also just, we talk about it all the time, but the recruiting aspect, I mean, the amount of talent, and Michigan is in the top 10 for composite talent. Like on paper, it's one of the most talented teams Michigan's had in the last 10 years. Problem is like the top 6, I think, are all freshmen. So Sharon has flipped the switch when it comes to recruiting for Michigan, and there's been a lot of people to thank for that, Champion Circle and all the folks associated with them. Larry Ellison, that's been cool. But so, this is kind of the start of a ramp-up period for Michigan football, in my opinion, and you see it this year as well with the 2026 recruiting class. They're getting really highly rated guys, and we talked about Jim kind of later in his tenure. That 2023 class has been pretty disappointing. And so those are supposed to be your leaders of the team. Those are your juniors this year. So I'm saying all this because I'm very excited for this year. I think Sharon's done a great job of kind of getting Michigan back on track when it comes to getting in top flight talent. It may take some time because it's a young team, especially at, obviously quarterback. There's some spots on the defense that they're very talented, but there's some depth that are young. So it's going to be fun. I think there's going to be a lot of growth this year, but there may be some growing pains at the start too.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be growing pains when you have first of all, in any new quarterback, right? The quarterback position in football is so important to the success of a football team. Any new quarterback there are going to be growing pains, but when you throw in the fact that he's barely 18, it adds to that. And then to your point, I think that you've got Chip Lindsey also. Right. I think him coming into the fold, there's going to be some new things. He's going to call plays from the booth, which, I think we're excited to see that after some struggles in the play calling last year as well. So I'm really looking forward to what they can do. And I think also let's remember too, I bet you they're going to pound the rock 1,000 times on Saturday. You still have Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall and Gio El Hadi and Greg Crippen and, those guys, right? So, I think that, if you think that if you're looking for Bryce to throw for 350 yards passing on Saturday, I just don't know that that's going to come.
Here's the thing, though. I think you need to throw the ball. I think you really need to take advantage of this because it's not like 2022 and 23 where Michigan was playing cupcakes. It's not like Ohio State's schedule in the future where they're just playing, 3 cupcakes. I think you really do need to allow for Bryce to get a lot of reps and make some mistakes and learn from those mistakes and do it against a team where the stakes are not as high because Michigan is 36.5 or 37.5 point favorites on Saturday. So I think you really do. Yes, you want the offensive line to get, run blocking reps as well. I think though, because we've seen it with Jim Harbaugh teams in the past where, hey, they're up 45-0 in the third quarter and they're calling off the dogs. And I'm not a big run it up on kind of guy, but I don't think allowing your true freshman quarterback in his first game to play all the way through, even if you're winning big, is running it up. You are trying to be the best team possible for the season.
Yeah.
And I think, hey, sometimes, maybe you need to throw 10 passing attempts in the fourth quarter when you're up 30 points. I don't know.
I don't think you're wrong there. I think it's very different from Michigan in 2023, where we pull our starters in every fourth quarter because we're up 3-4 scores. And it's basically just don't get guys hurt. Right. So I think you're correct. With that being said, if Bryce Underwood gets hurt, we are in trouble, I think. I would it's got to be a balance of that, right? It's got to be like, let's get him enough looks to feel good going into Oklahoma. And also like, let's not be stupid, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. New Mexico. Obviously, this isn't like a top tier opponent that Michigan is playing. They're coming into the big house with a brand new head coach, Jason Eck from Idaho. They've got a ton of transfers coming in. This is, let's just be honest, it's not been a great football program, right? It is. It's been an okay football program, and I think it is exactly the type of team. I know we have to get into Oklahoma quicker than you probably want to with a new quarterback, but this is the game that you want to start off with for Michigan this week.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting team. So Jason Eck is the first-year head coach for New Mexico. He comes from Idaho, where, if you remember last year, Idaho gave Oregon a run for their money in that week 1 game. I mean, that was like 14-17, I think, in the fourth quarter, and Oregon scored a touchdown to pull away and win it 24-14. But he brings some of his guys from Idaho. Shout out the Vandals, by the way. I do miss playing with them in NCAA. The Dome was
the
incredible.
Kibby Dome. The
Kibby Dome, man. But the quarterback is from Idaho, Jack Lane. They did bring in Montana State running back transfer, Scottree Humphrey. He rushed for 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns last year. And then they brought in a guy from Nebraska who had 80 tackles at linebacker for the Cornhuskers in 2024. So kind of interesting that he was a big-time recruit coming out of high school, top 150 guy from South Dakota. So he's going to be kind of the leader of the defense there at the linebacking core. And then they bring in a couple other guys. They bring in a linebacker from Idaho and then an edge rusher from Idaho. So a lot of guys coming in from Jason Eck's former program. Montana State, I don't know how many folks follow FCS football. That's one of the best programs in the FCS. They always are consistently up there. They've been a really, really solid program. So, I mean, that's a good get for them, right, for New Mexico. And I think those top FCS level players can certainly play at the FBS level. I just don't know what type of talent they kind of have around these guys. They have one offensive lineman returning that started last year. Otherwise, I think they're pretty young up there.
I have to imagine that's going to be a tough matchup for these guys, right?
Yeah.
I think that the Michigan D-line is going to not make it a fun week for these boys, for the New Mexico offensive line. So that's where, like, I think that we've seen it before 1,000 times in some of these lopsided matchups. It's like, okay, you can have good skill guys, you can have a lot, but at the end of the day, like, if you can't run the ball and if you can't, if you can't keep your quarterback off the turf, you're going to be in trouble. So that is one thing I think I'm looking for in this matchup is, okay, is Michigan's D-line just going to give this kid like an absolute nightmare of a day?
They might. I think Derek Moore is poised for kind of a breakout year. I think Michigan fans have known his ability and his talent the last 3 years. I mean, he came in as a true freshman and played a lot of football in 2022. But I don't know if it'll be that Aiden Hutchinson level step, right? Because that's second in the Heisman All-American. But I do think that Derek Moore, is going to have a really good year. Yeah. And then TJ Guy too. I've been a fan of TJ Guy. I mean, he hasn't played a ton relative to Derek Moore. It's tough when Josiah Stewart and Braden McGregor and Jalen Harrell are all in front of you. But I think he's a guy that's gotten better every single year. I thought he had a really, really good game in the Ohio State game last year. He had a really great game against Alabama in the bowl game. And that was Alabama's starting offensive line. Like, they didn't have anybody really sitting out in that game. So I'm excited for these defensive ends. And then we know Rayshon Benny. He's a guy that is really well-rounded, can get to the quarterback, obviously a great rush defender as well. And I'm excited to see some of these newer transfers, Damon Payne, Trey Williams, Trey Pierce has been talked about as a guy that's going to play a lot of football coming into his third year. So I think this defensive line, there's probably some guys I'm missing. I mean, they talked about Nate Marshall, the true freshman. Dom Nichols is a guy that's been talked about. He's in his second year at the program. They've just got a lot of talent at the edges and in the interior. And it's going to be tough, even if they had all 5 starters coming back from last year. That's going to be tough for an offensive line and at New Mexico to compete with the level of talent Michigan has stacked on the defensive line.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I definitely agree with you there. I'm interested. I think I'm very interested to see how Michigan's secondary does, right? So you have Jair Hill coming back. You have Zeke Berry coming back. You don't have Rod Moore here in game 1. Mason Curtis is a guy that's been talked about a lot here. And so I think that's a spot where obviously you didn't have Will Johnson for the second half of the season last year. So that's where Jair Hill and Zeke and all those guys got a lot of run. But I think it's a core that is still newer, right? Like very talented, but not tons of experience. So I'm definitely looking at like, okay, obviously you know that the front 7 are going to get to the quarterback and are going to do their job. That's just what Michigan's defense does. But is that I think that here's how I would put it. If Michigan's secondary can be very good, that takes them from a very good defense to like a top 5 defense in college football.
Yeah, there's a lot of youth there, right? I mean, even Jair Hill is third year in the program, second year as a starter, but some inconsistency issues in 2024. But you can see the ability. I mean,
right.
He feels like a guy that if he puts it all together, he's going to be a first-round pick this year in next year's draft. Like, that's the type of ability he has. He's sticky in man coverage. He made some plays on the ball last year. I still think there's some room for improvement. Like Ohio State, he gets called for pass interference because he doesn't turn around for the ball in that game. So I think if he puts it all together, he's going to be a guy that, I'm not going to say boom or bust because I do think his floor is still relatively high just based on last year. But like his ceiling is All-American first-round pick.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of talent that he has. That's the type of ability he has. So beyond that, Zeke Berry played a lot better at corner than he did at nickel or safety last year, which is interesting because he was a safety coming out of high school.
Yep.
But I'm excited to see Zeke with another kind of, spring and fall camp under his belt at corner. And then, the younger guys, like you have Shamari Earls. He's wearing number 2. I think we talked about that. To me, that it's just a number, but to me, that shows that they do have faith in his ability to kind of blow up and become that kind of guy in the secondary when you consider some of the guys that have wore number 2 at Michigan.
Yep.
And then Josiah Edmond, he was a late riser in his recruiting class last year. He's a freshman last year, second year guy this year, kind of a longer, lankier, kind of rangier corner. So I'm excited about him. And then Jaden Sanders and Elijah Dotson, 2 freshmen that have been getting a lot of hype. I know Sharon mentioned them by name at his press conference. So just at the corner spots, I think there's a ton of talent, but it's, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of youth.
It is. And so I think that's where, like, how is Wink going to use those guys? Also, you talked about how Sharon kind of grew into his role last year. And, once it felt like he got some, just some time under his belt, then it was like, okay, he's kind of getting into his rhythm. That same thing happened with Wink too. You felt that, I think if Michigan, if Wink's defense plays like they did down the stretch in the earlier part of the season, that Texas game maybe goes a little bit differently. Now, you still have to score to win, obviously. And Texas was one of the top teams in the country, obviously, also. But you just felt like towards the end of the year, everything was clicking for Wink Martindale's defense. So I'm really looking forward to watching him. I think we got to talk about Bryce. Obviously, we've talked about him already on this podcast. We've talked about him probably every single podcast since he ended up flipping to Michigan back in December, right? And so that is something where it's like, okay, we've talked, and you're finally ready to see him actually throw the football. What would you – I think we have actually asked this a little bit before, but like, what would you call success for Bryce Underwood here in week 1 versus New Mexico, his first game for Michigan?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the last couple days, and like 225 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I don't know what the attempts and completions are. And then, obviously ground game. I don't know if he'll be activated in the running game yet. But maybe they want to put that on film, make, Oklahoma kind of think about it. I don't know.
Or maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe break it out against Oklahoma. But yeah, I think 2.25 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. I think, and look, if it's like 189 in the touchdown, I'll be like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not needing him to throw 400 yards.
Well, here's where I am at. I don't want to be. I don't want to be the stat box watcher, the box score watcher, that type of person. Because I think it's more for me, like, how comfortable does he look? Right. I think it is. All right. Are you getting to your second read sometimes? Are you, if the pocket collapses, do you panic immediately? Right.
Yeah.
Like, though. Are your throws on target? Are you throwing it 1,000 miles an hour to your tight end for a 5-yard out? Right. Like, those little things to me, I think, are more important than how many yards and touchdowns does he have. And obviously, like, that's going to be at the end of the day, like, everybody in the country is going to be like, oh my God, he only had 137 yards and he, had 1 touchdown and 1 interception or something like that. And it's an immediate, bust call. Right. But I think for me, it's going to be like, all right, what does this kid look like when he runs the offense in that first drive? Is it clicking very early? And I think that Chip Lindsey, my guess is they're going to do, some checkdowns. They're going to do some screens. They're going to do some, they're probably going to go to Marlon Klein like right away. Right. I'm really looking forward to see, like, how does he just handle, all right, it's a night game. Everything's sped up now. It's game speed. The lights are on. The sound is on in the big house. Everything just happens so quickly. All that stuff. How does a fresh 18-year-old kid with the weight of the program on his shoulders respond to all that?
Well, if I knew that's what you were asking, I want to give you stats. Yeah, no, I mean, because you could tell a lot just by again, the stats, regardless, because you may have drops, you may have an incorrect route that we don't know about as fans, and the ball goes elsewhere where, that the receiver runs a wrong route or they're not on the same page communication wise. So, yeah, I think, just like getting to the line and snapping the ball, because there was a couple of those delay of games in the spring game. Seeing him be under control and, I think everything we've heard, you got to think that, like, he's in control of the huddle. Like, he's got the respect of the guys in that room. And so you got to think that that's going to be, hopefully something that he kind of learns in terms. It's very basic, but just getting to the line of scrimmage, making sure people are lined up right and snapping the ball. That didn't happen a couple times in the spring game. So,
well, and that's, I mean, honestly, I think that people are like, listen, I understand he's a big time quarterback and they should be able to do that. That is not the easiest thing to do, right? It's like, when you're seeing it for the first time, you go back, I'm sure we've all seen the clip of, I can't remember which quarterback, he's coming in and his hands are literally shaking while he's trying to do it. Like, it's a lot of pressure. You got 100,000 people that are all they're all watching you specifically, right? I translate this to, if you're a guy who's ever golfed and there's one group of other people watching you tee off, my heart rate starts going a little bit, right? And so think about 110,000 people in that stadium and about 10 million more on TV just waiting to see what you're going to do, right? And so I think how he handles that pressure, get up to the line. I hope that they make, let's get a scripted first drive, right? Let's have Max Bredesen helping him along, just like he did in camp where he's his roommate, those types of things. I think let's try to make it easy. I'm sure they're not going to do 1,000 different shifts, right away and all that. But I agree with you. Like, get up to the line. Don't get a delay of game, because then people are going to start groaning in the crowd. And then, then it just gets, the pressure mounts, right? And so I think a lot of those little things are what I'm looking for, rather than like, does he have a 70-yard bomb to Donovan McCulley?
I would enjoy that, though.
I mean, the place, I will say, let's go back to J.J. McCarthy's first touchdown where he scrambles to the right against Western Michigan, throws the bomb to Baldwin.
Yeah,
Galen
Baldwin.
And like, if anything like that happens on Saturday, this crowd is going to go ballistic.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope he doesn't have to scramble and run around against New Mexico. I hope that the offensive line is able to give him a clean pocket, make throws as designed. But, it's football and things break down and there's miscommunication and you got to play backyard football. I think that's probably one of his bigger skill sets at this point is just when you watch his high school film, he is able to scramble, keep his eyes downfield and look, run to make the throw, right? He's not just running to run. He's running to make a throw downfield. So, I'll be curious to see how he kind of handles that because that can get a little dangerous. Like when things break down and if you're not on the same page, you throw it and it may be in, a couple of defenders there. So, but I mean, look, physically, one of the most gifted quarterbacks probably to ever come out of high school at this point of their careers. Like that spring game, he threw it, was it like 62 yards in the air and it just seemed like he flicked his wrist. It wasn't even like he had to crow hop or anything into it.
And we've seen that in some of the practice videos too, right? Which, again, it's on air. There's nobody coming at you. It's a lot different, right? But the other thing I wanted to say too, to your point about the scrambling and running, like, obviously there's a ton of the Cam Newton comparisons and all that. For me, it's almost if you remember Terrell Pryor at Ohio State, I'm sure we all remember, but the way he ran looked super effortless, right? And it was like the long strides where it's like he doesn't look like he's running fast, but he is gaining a lot of territory, and so I think that's what Bryce reminds me of. Is it never looks like he's in a full sprint, right? It looks like he's just kind of coasting. I'm very intrigued to your point. Like, okay, let's say, there's a point where everybody's covered and, the pocket does break down. Can he extend a play, but not make it an absolute panic moment, right? And also, can he just go get a first down for us with his legs every so often? That is what J.J. McCarthy, he didn't do it all that often, but when we needed to, he could. And that just makes an offense so much more dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, he can use his legs to get out of sticky situations, right? If a play breaks down or free rusher comes through. I mean, we saw that. I was watching the 2023 Michigan-Penn State game, and there was a 4th and 1 where JJ, it's a play-action sprint out, and it wasn't necessarily a free rusher, but nobody was open, and he was just able to cut up field and get, 7 yards and get a first down, keep the drive alive. So those types of plays can be huge in football games because football – you can look at games often and there's like 2 or 3 moments where like if you flip that outcome, that might be a 20-point swing.
Right.
So, with possessions in football and being able to keep drives alive and make plays on third down, like that's crucial.
That's why, according to Justin Spiro, even if Michigan stole one sign, that everything should be vacated because that could just mean so much different in the season.
What about other schools that stole signs? Is that not?
No, that's irrelevant. That is irrelevant. Why would you bring
some accountant going with an iPhone? That's what we're worried about. I'm over that, man.
We're on get through this one last podcast before the first game without
we're
mentioning
on to New Mexico.
We're on to New Mexico. What is that? Is that Bill Belichick?
That is. Yeah, we're on to By Cincinnati. The way, this is a Michigan podcast, but some of the things I hear coming out of Chapel Hill are. Did you see they trademarked Gold Digger for like a jewelry brand?
Gold Digger, like I don't know, man. It feels
good
wild.
For her.
It is wild to me knowing what Bill Belichick stood for 20 years in the NFL, which was like, I mean, I remember the Randy Moss video of him going into Bill Belichick's office to ask him to come to their Halloween party. I don't know if you've ever seen that on NFL Films. And like, it's Randy Moss, who's literally the greatest receiver of all time. And he's still like shitting his pants walking into Bill Belichick's office to try and ask him to come. And like, to go from that guy who wouldn't even crack a smile ever to all of a sudden having a 24-year-old girlfriend who is like doing all this side shit before week 1. Like it's just hey, listen, they say there's a saying out there that something is undefeated, and the girls are undefeated. They they always win.
Dude, the picture of him like holding her up with his feet, like when he's like in an L shape. Yeah, that's again, we're a Michigan podcast. We're gonna talk too much about it, but that is yeah, to your point, I mean, one of the greatest minds in NFL history, very no nonsense. And now he's recruiting high school kids. Like I don't it just seems like it seems just like the craziest thing. And they start UNC, because this is a college football podcast, I guess we could talk about it if we wanted to. But they start their season with TCU on Monday night on Labor Day. That's going to be an interesting one.
Shout out Ben Hall too. Ben Hall transferred to UNC. So
I had no idea.
I don't know I don't know where he's at on the depth chart, to be honest, but I would love to see him get some run for them. Ben Hall, one of the nicest kids I've ever met, and deserves a chance. I felt bad for Ben Hall, to be honest, with them bringing Justice Haynes in, because obviously pumped about Justice Haynes, but Ben Hall showed he was good when he got in the game, for Michigan. So
I'm excited for Justice Haynes. I feel bad for me because at some point I'm going to say Justice Hayes, former Michigan gadget guy, running back receiver of the Rich Rod era. But Justice Haynes, I'm very excited, man. That's another guy I'm looking forward to. Him and Jordan Marshall. Very excited. I watched and I'm sure a lot of us did, but I watched the Big Ten Network fall camp tour stop in Ann Arbor. I watched that when they posted on YouTube, and I really like Justice Haynes. The kind of the way that he talked about coming in, and it's tough when you come into a new place and you're an older guy. I mean, he's a junior, and you were established at a previous school, and then you got to kind of reestablish yourself as a leader. But I think from what I've heard from him speaking on that program, I was really impressed with him. And I think him and Jordan Marshall seems like they have a great relationship. So I'm excited to see that 1-2 punch, man. I'm really, Jordan Marshall in the bowl game he went over 100 yards. And again, the Alabama team didn't have anybody sit out really.
And I love that Chip Lindsey actually came out and said, like, he doesn't even know who's going to start. Like, I love that it feels like Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall are both like 1A, 1B for Michigan, right? They can be completely interconnected and both play on any down or any package, right? So I'm excited about them. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit biased because I've gotten pretty close with Donovan McCulley, but man, I just see that 6'5" frame and I'm like, dude, I am so pumped to watch him fly down the field in the number one. Like I know Roman obviously was unbelievable in the number one for us. I mean, he, obviously was a huge piece to the national championship for us, but like, just seeing a big body number one is different, and I'm so pumped. That is, if we're talking about what to look for on Saturday, the Bryce Underwood to Donovan McCulley connection. I am very excited to see what that is.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, I think Nico Collins was going to wear number one.
Dude, the lead up to 2020, Nico Collins possibly wearing the number one, like, man, and now seeing what he's become for the Texans is like what could have been. Holy shit.
Yeah, but hey, you know what? That after 2021 was pretty good stretch of football. So
pretty good. We'll take it.
Yeah, just a couple stolen signs. It's okay. Had to bring it back up, but no, I'm excited. I mean, I think who is the last like bigger receiver? Is it Funchess to wear number one?
Probably Funchess. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I don't know how many guys. Because when Harbaugh came in, number one wasn't really given to the upperclassmen. It was given to
that big body receiver.
No, it was given to Kekoa Crawford.
Oh yeah, that was wild. That was a wild move.
Yeah. And then Andrew Anthony wore it coming in as a freshman.
That's true.
Which he had that big game in East Lansing. And then Roman got it as a senior, right? So Harbaugh kind of went back to that thing.
This is such a wild question for me to ask 2 days before football. Because this would be like a total June question, but like, what if Michigan kept Andrell Anthony on that national championship team. Like,
would they have won the national championship still? I don't know. Like, it's hard for me. Like in 20, like I see people like, oh, if we had, I'm like, they went 15-0, man. I don't care.
yeah,
You know,
no,
I
I'm
think in
with you.
22 maybe would have. I think last year would have been nice, but can you get the ball to him?
Yeah, I mean that's still we would have literally been like jackpot 500 throwing it up to him probably. But
as well.
I'm just thinking about, like, obviously, yes, you're right. We won 15 straight games and it all worked out. But what that receiving
He was
core,
on that 22 team. That's how little I remember him
I
being
was
on
gonna
that
say,
team.
I'm
I
pretty
said
sure
that.
that
I was like,
MSU
wait.
game was.
Yeah, I remember he
2022.
had. Well, I remember he had a
the-
catch against Iowa, and I think against Illinois, JJ overshot him, or maybe
Yeah.
I can't remember. But yeah, he didn't really play a ton in 22, and then he transferred. So 24 is more the year that maybe would have been nice to have him. But I don't know. You might have Braylon on last year's team. I don't know if it would have helped.
That's a fact. But all right. Last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up here is the New Mexico coach Jason Eck just had I would say, like, I don't know that it was a bad press conference, but kind of an odd one of, like, I don't know, if I'm a New Mexico type team coming into the big house, I don't know what I would say, but I probably try to fly under the radar. Like, I don't want to make the headlines, I don't think, right? That would be my goal, is to, like, hey, let's just not put any bulletin material up at all. And instead, he was just a quote machine. Like, the one quote that he had when they asked him about Bryce Underwood was, "Oh, well, he's not Tom Brady." So, like, which I get it. I think that he's basically trying to say, like, we don't know what he is, and he's not, like, the best quarterback of all time yet. So, like, we can play with him, but mentioning Tom Brady's, I don't know, kind of wild.
Yeah, I you look at the transcript, it's not nearly as bad as some of the headlines can make it out to be. You can make things sound salacious if you just kind of cut what you want.
We're trying to do headlines here. What do you?
Well, we could do that in the title, but I'm saying here and now, as just a person. Like, I don't think what he said was all that bad. I mean,
No.
the NIL stuff was brought up by the reporters in the room. And I don't love coaches talking about it, but it's not like he brought it up unprompted, right? Yeah. I mean, it was asked of him in that press conference. So, he's complimentary. He talked a lot about, the great players that Michigan has. And, when he says, he said that, he said, but not, Tom Brady's not playing on Saturday. Like, it's not like he's like, Bryce Underwood isn't Tom Brady. It's just like, it's not Tom Brady playing. Like, it's college athletes, and we're going to go and try to win a game. And I can't hate on that at all. So I don't think it was necessarily the worst thing in the world. I think, he's a guy that, played at Wisconsin. So he's been at the big house.
Yeah.
And he's experienced it as a player. So, now as a head coach, going to experience it for the first time. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was complimentary, but he, was trying to keep his team like, hey, it's not like we're, this isn't, I don't know, all the like great, like David and Goliath, like, David wins, you know what I mean? But, like, it's not that type of matchup to his players. That's what he's trying to convey. It may be in reality, but he's just trying to keep his players, hey, we can win this thing. So I don't hate it.
What do you think about the spread? It seems high to me, just not knowing what our offense can score, right? Like, I think, what was it at 34 or something around there?
I think it was 37 this week when it opened, from what I saw. I'm not a gambler. I don't sports bet. So people ask me, like, hey, should I bet on this? And I'm like they specifically asked me about Michigan. I'm like, I don't know, man. If I knew and I had the right answer, I'd be rich. Right. So
no, I think I don't bet on it either, honestly, but I'm more so just, like, from that being the expert's, like, opinion, right, of what this game should look like. Just to me, it's like, okay, if they score 7 points, for Michigan to cover the spread, they're scoring in the 40s, and that's a lot of points for a brand new offense.
No, that's fair. When I look at, I think Michigan, if they really are able to, have success on the ground, I do think that they could, regardless of the pass game. I mean, we've seen Michigan in the past be able to run for 300, 350, 400 yards on these kind of cupcake opponents.
Yeah.
And, basically, drive the score up a little bit. I think about the NIU game a few years ago. Like, yeah, Cade had, he had that long touchdown to CJ. He had a couple passing touchdowns, I think. But it was a lot on the ground. It's like, it was like 400 yards on the ground. So, I don't bet, but I think that's probably the road to that cover for Michigan. But maybe there's a defensive touchdown in there. Maybe there's a couple short fields from this defense, right? Maybe a strip sack or an interception, or
maybe
some special teams play.
Zavada 70-yarder.
Maybe JB Brown said he was doing that in practice. I will say I'm very curious to see the special teams because, outside of Zavada last year, I had some issues with the special teams play, which under Jim Harbaugh and Jay Harbaugh was
never,
and Chris Partridge was phenomenal for a decade. That was Michigan was always like a top 3 or 5 team in special teams to the advanced, ratings or whatever.
Yep.
So I'm going to be really invested in taking a look at the special teams unit because that's won Michigan a lot of football games.
Right.
Like field position and, making plays, blocking punts, returning punts. I want to be very, very curious. And JB Brown says it's going to be much improved. We're going to see.
I know. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. But either way, I'm pumped. We're going to be out there tailgating. Come out and hang out with us. 1006 South Main Street, right across from the stadium.
It's right next to that Maize and Blue house.
Right next to the Maize and Blue house. Basically like Maine and Pauline, or Maine and right across from Maine and Hoover. So right there. So if you're
northwest side of the big house.
Yep. You'll see us. Trust me. You will see us there.
Yes.
If you're driving along Main Street. So come hang out. Again, we'll have Woodson Whiskey. We will have Slows Barbecue. We'll be out there as well. Shout out to Slows, my guys there. They also have a brand new restaurant downtown Ann Arbor on Washington. So head there, check it out too. We will have North Peak Brewing, the Hale IPA, and the Camp Vodka Water. Very excited to get people to try that. Feldman Chevrolet, obviously, will be out there holding it down for us. My guy Jason over there, the GM that's been hooking up every Michigan athlete with a car and helping these guys out, supporting the student athletes. He'll be out there dominating cornhole, maybe a couple shot skis, you never know. I'm just pumped, man. We're here. It's finally here, dude. I can't wait to shout out Tyler, my cousin Ty. He'll be here. He sent me a video of him and his little boy. It had to be like 5 a.m. that they were up because his little boy's 2-3 years old or whatever. He gets up at the crack of dawn, already just rocking out to the Victors, just dancing to it.
Hey,
so ready.
I took Emery. We were in the living room, and I threw on the intro video with James Earl Jones, and it was electric. Also, can we we got Mufasa, Darth Vader doing our intro video. I mean, God rest his soul. That's electric.
I don't think we talk about that enough, how sick that is.
It's Darth Vader, bro.
Yeah.
So that video is amazing. I watched we were watching the Michigan Penn State game. It came up next, and I was like, "Oh, let's watch this." Yeah, and that's when 30 straight runs for Michigan. So I get it with Ty, man. You gotta indoctrinate them early, man. You gotta brainwash them.
That I love that, and that game also, just going back to that, is the most fuck you game of all time.
You kept punching me in the chest.
I did punch you in the chest. Your sternum's probably still bruised from that.
It might be, yeah. And then we did those blue, those. Yeah, I'm not gonna call them maize and blue because they were different shades, but those blue and yellow shots at the Pretzel Bell.
I love it. I mean,
and then we just went home. It was it's 3 o'clock. We're all right, we're old. Let's just go home.
It felt like we conquered the world. And it's okay, so what do we do now? We just go home.
Can I just say that as I get older, the last however many years that we beat Ohio State, I'm dude, we're gonna go out. We're gonna celebrate. And I'm so tired. That is just that game, even as a fan, that game, even if you're not at the stadium, that game, you feel like you played because you're just living and dying on every play. But they're we were supposed to go to Skeeps after last year, so that has not happened. that will never happen. I'm not. We agreed to it and then just never did it. So
I mean,
I'm
listen,
sorry.
it's fine. We're just to that point. I've seen this on the internet a few times, and I feel it. Like we're to the point where we can do all day or all night, but we can't do all day and all night. You
It's
know,
true.
like
Yeah.
that's
Plus, I
that's
don't.
where I'm at.
I feel like they're at a certain point. Like I'm gonna start looking like Steve Buscemi with a skateboard. Like, how do you do, fellow kids? Like, I don't want to be that guy. You know, let the kids have Steve. We don't need to go there. We can, it was funny to think about. And then, if anybody's wondering, this originated from our friend. His sister is at UM, and she's like, if Michigan beats Ohio State in 2024, you got to come to Skeeps. We're like, yeah, sure. It's not gonna happen. It happens.
And then it happened.
We have not made good on that bet.
No.
I'm sorry.
Maybe Saturday. You just never know. You never know.
Who's to say?
Who's to say? All right. Well, for us, you can follow us at BlueBy90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at BlueBy90 Podcast on YouTube, and BlueBy90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.